All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 57 of the Hideout, where we will be talking about Web3 gaming, Metaverse, digital art. We've got a special lineup today. Very important episode of the Hideout, as this will be our last one before our mainnet launch next week. So we're super stoked. We're going to have tons of awesome conversation today. We've got our great partners in Quid and Trevor Jones joining us on stage today. So I know this is going to be a very special panel. And then I think a little bit later, we're going to have our friends at Pixelinks also joining us. And we're working on some cool stuff with them that we will announce at a later time. But I know the community is going to love this one. So definitely got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. But let's start with some introductions for those in the crowd that may not know who we are or what we're building. My name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind the Satoshiverse and the Legions 2029 game. The game we've been built, well, actually, let's start with the Satoshiverse. So the Satoshiverse we've been building since 2020, which feels like a lifetime ago. But it was originally a collaboration between ourselves and comic artist Jose Delbo, who is now just turned 90 years old, did about 70 years for DC and Marvel, and helped create our key character, Satoshi the Creator. And around Satoshi, we built a blockchain-themed superhero comic universe that then evolved into what we have today, which for the last 2 years has been the building of our flagship game, Legions 2029, which is a third-person, fast-paced hack and slash game that is completely blockchain-enabled in-client. It's a free-to-play PC game, so you just download it on your PC, and through our partnership with Hyperplay, which is a Web3 launcher, you're going to be able to do all the interactions that you would think that you would normally be able to do on your web browser. You're going to be able to do it in your game client when we launch. And so that launch is coming up. It's going to be on January 23rd. We've got a pinned tweet here at the top of the space with all the information that you're going to need for that launch, including some pretty urgent items. So for those of you that haven't already registered a game account, you want to do that before this Friday, because what we're going to be doing is if you register an account during our testnet period, which is going to end this Friday, you're going to actually be able to access a custom skin for your custom created avatar in the game. And so the custom created avatars, if you guys haven't seen, we'll post a link at the top of the spaces in a minute with a video, but that's going to allow you, once you get in the game, to create your own custom avatar, which you'll be able to play for free in the game. And then if you get it to level 5, which takes about an hour, maybe a little bit less if you've already played the game before, you're going to be able to mint that avatar for free. We're going to airdrop it to you, and you're going to have your own custom created avatar PFP on the Polygon proof of stake blockchain, which is where we're launching with plans to expand to other blockchains in the future. But all that you're going to be able to do as of January 23rd when we launch. But if you go in, all you got to do is register an account. It takes about 5 minutes or less on our website, which is game.satoshiverse.io. You will be able to get that custom skin for your avatar when you create it. And they're pretty cool looking. Check out the post to see what that's going to look like. Those avatars, in addition to the custom skin, are going to have superhero emblems, which are the logos of over 35 of our partner communities. So we've got Quid and Trevor on board right now here. We've got a few of our other partners here in the crowd. I see Comics and Crypto. I see Pop Culture. So you're going to be able to create some custom avatars that have these like emblems on the chest, giving it that superhero look from whatever community you associate with. We've got Jose Delbo with the Death character. We've got some Legions emblems as well for those of you who just want to go with the Legion stuff or the 8 Mo Army. But we've got something for everybody. You're going to be able to create a custom avatar. Super excited about that. When we launch, we're going to have a tournament, a competition where you can compete to win a ton of prizes that are going to be provided by both ourselves and some of our partners. So definitely look out for a post coming this week or next on details on that. But there's going to be tons of prizes and really cool stuff that you can win by competing in our speedrun tournament. Again, all this is completely free. We do have 2 avatar collections, the Legionnaires and the 8 Mo Army. Again, you can find that information in the post and on our Twitter. Those are going to give you different perks within the ecosystem, but you don't need one of those to play. There's going to be different ways to just play the game and have fun and get cool stuff, all of which is going to be backed on the blockchain as an option. The great other part is that because the game applies a hybrid approach, you actually don't need to mint any of this stuff on the blockchain. You'll be able to just play the game as normal, but in order to kind of promote the blockchain and the true ownership, you'll have that option to very seamlessly mint that stuff out as by connecting your wallet and using either our DApp or the Hyperplay launcher, and you'll be able to, then own that stuff as NFTs and trade it on third-party marketplaces, as you would expect with a blockchain-enabled game. But for now, I'll stop there on our launch and everything coming up. We'll probably touch on it a bit more later, but I want to get to our awesome panel that we have here today. So right now we have with us the infamous Trevor Jones, who we've been doing tons of work with and have lots of surprises lined up for you guys through Apollo this year. But Trevor, why don't you give us an introduction of yourselves and your background for those who don't know you, although I'm sure a lot of the people here do, but really, really happy to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we spoke, about 2 hours. Always good to hear your voice and to have a chat. I just finished washing up my brushes, getting all the oil off my hands and face as usual, and managed to get home just in time for this. So yeah, looking forward to chatting and have a little bite to eat later on. About me, I'm a painter. I've been involved in the crypto space since 2017. Crypto art, NFTs since 2019. It's been a crazy roller coaster of a ride, and lots of ups and downs. Never boring. As we were chatting today, a lot of really, really cool things coming up. Projects I've been working on, for over 2 years now. And I think that's important thing to talk about, that the space moves so fast, and I know artists feel that they need to continue to be pumping work out and putting it out there and so-called staying relevant. But I do think it's also very important to really think about the long term as an artist, your legacy, but where you're moving to forwards, and always developing and evolving, and partnerships is a great way to do that. And so I'm very, very happy to be working with you and Apollo Entertainment and the amazing team there. We've got some really, really, really cool things coming up this year that it's been kind of in the building up since 2021 with the Bitcoin Angel bronze sculpture. This huge triptych that I've been working on, the steampunk series. There's so much going on. I got a few little drops coming up. Something to be heading to Mexico in a couple of weeks for an exhibition. 2 old pieces I'm putting in for up for sale from 2014. So some of my early AR experiments, they're 10 years old, but the concept of it itself is interesting in that I'm actually thinking about new work now that's looking back and looping back to 10 years ago that I was working with art and technology and augmented reality and film. So super excited about that. I've got something come up with the Moro Collective in Art Dubai, which is first week of March, and drop with 33, the infamous 33, which is also March 3rd on Nifty Gateway. So there's, as we spoke today, there's a lot of things juggling, as always, about 5 or 6 different things at one time, and never boring.
Yep. Well, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, right? So I am super stoked about everything. I have the behind the scenes. I know what's going on and I know it's going to be special this year. So really, really, really happy to have you, Trevor. As those of you may have known from past spaces, Trevor's one of the original kind of inspirations I had and Jose had in getting into the crypto space, and was a really clear example of someone who did everything right in those early times and helped build this space. So true pioneer, but also an OG Legionnaire, dating back to our first pre-sale. Trevor, has a collection of Legionnaires that I think would rival any among us. So super super stoked to have you, Trevor. And now going over to another longtime friend and probably one of the earliest people I met when I got in the crypto space, and now our paths have reconnected here. John over at Quid, thank you for joining us. Could you tell us about Quid? For those, I know the Satoshiverse knows about Quid because we've done all those drops and we've got more coming up. But tell everybody else if they haven't heard about Quid before.
Yeah, this is amazing. I have to follow Trevor. Yeah, okay. This is going to be easy as can be. Um, Quid is the home for digital collectibles. We've worked with everybody from, actually, we have a Star Trek drop this week, but Star Trek, SpongeBob, Care Bears. I like to say it is Web 2.5. We are definitely not NFTs, but NFTs are available. So there are certain collections that are mintable. And we do work with a great company that makes some of our 3D drops for us, which is Apollo. But yeah, Nick, I met you. I was actually just looking it up. So I started in Web3 in 2019 at Consensus. And then my next stop was over at Game Credits in 2021. So that's where I met you. And so, yeah, I've been in the Web3 space for a while now. And I've found my way over to Quid now, which is, I kind of like it because you get to educate people from Web 2 over to Web 3. So, we have a database of 8 million users, whereas in Web3 spaces, I usually have, 100,000, few 100,000, but we can make that middle America move and educate them on the benefits of Web3. So at Quid, I am the VP of Pop Culture, which is a horrible name, but basically I deal with anything not sports related. So there you go.
I love it. Well, thanks, John. And yeah, it's crazy how fast time has flown and just how everything has developed in that short amount of time. But I think one of the cool parts about this panel, which I don't think we've had before, is we're going to kind of touch every major aspect of the Web3 and Metaverse space between everything Trevor has done as an artist, what we're doing in gaming in the Metaverse, what Quid does for digital collectibles, which I think their tech stack is second to none. And then, we're going to have Pixelinks join us later, who's really revolutionizing Web3, the intersection of Web3 and music, which is just awesome. And when they jump on, we'll have them give us an introduction. But yeah, no, I'm excited. This is going to be a great space. And to take us deeper into this space, we have our very own Spencer on the Apollo account. Spencer, why don't you give a quick introduction and take us away?
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, so as Nick said, my name is Spencer. I'm Spencer Vogel. I've been the business development manager here with Satoshiverse and with Apollo Entertainment, working with the team for the last 2.5 years or so now. We've been running these spaces for a long time now, space number 57. Great to have the consistency going. And great to talk to you, Trevor. Great to meet you, John. So getting into the format a little bit of the space. So we're going to start off with a question for everyone in the group. I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into the discussion from there. And then I'll call on each of you guys for an individual question, and then we'll get back into some group questions at the end if we have time. And then for everyone who's here listening live, we do a giveaway every week on our spaces, and we're going to be giving away one of our Satoshiverse collectibles. So make sure you stick around until the end of the space to be able to see if you're a winner. Awesome. So getting into it, so the first question is going to be for everyone, and maybe Trevor, maybe you can start us out on this one. How do you see NFTs, Web3, and digital art and collectibles impacting traditional industries like art, music, and gaming in the next decade?
Thanks for putting me on the spot there, Spencer. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
You know, here's, the funny thing is, I constantly get questions, whether it's in interviews or sent to me or on Twitter Spaces, and kind of speculating about the future. And I I tend not to give any kind of real information. Number one, to make me not look stupid, and number two, I really, and maybe it sounds weird, I completely focus on myself and my own work and my own trajectory, my art. I kind of take an overview of what I see happening in the space, and I tend to mostly ignore it and follow my own path. Maybe that's a chip on my shoulder, or bad business advice. It's very different, I think, what I do as a fine artist who's interested in technology, um, and how I see this move. Another thing is, like, since 2017, mid 2017, when I kind of got into the space, uh, and was kind of creating crypto themed augmented reality paintings from the end of 2017 with my first exhibit 2018. I've seen so much transformation, so many shifts, so much change. It literally moves so fast that trying to, like I said, speculate as to what's going to happen or how things are going to affect things. I honestly, I look at what I'm doing and I focus on what I can offer to the space, and I really don't look. Maybe I should read more. Maybe I should take more interest in everything else that's going around. But there's so much information that I tend to, with my old brain, get overloaded and stressed out. So like I said, I just take an overview of what's going on. Mostly through Twitter, which is probably bad for my own mental health, but it keeps me involved and interested and I think excited about things at the same time. So, in a very long and roundabout way, I really don't know what to say to you that in your question. I'm just gonna throw it off to Quid, and he can probably answer it better than I can. Put somebody else on the
It's
spot.
a great relationship. Well, actually, I got this one. I'm good with this one. So before going into Web3, I owned a marketing company in the music industry, and from that was about 12 years, and then I managed bands for about 10 years. And when I was at Consensus, I put a deck together about an NFT offering, and this is about 2019. And I was told then, to Trevor's point, how much things have changed, that NFTs wouldn't take off. Now, at that point, they were already taking off, but I think what we're going to see, and we've seen it in the space a little bit, but it is really more fan engagement, more loyalty programs, more, I use this expression a lot. Like, most people don't know how their cars work, but in the blockchain space, we're so eager to explain blockchain and how it works and why it's better. We don't need to. We just need to show a better product. And if we start, showing people the value by not explaining the value, I think we're going to go a lot further. And that's what I hope to see. And I think we will see it. And I think, we have another guest coming on later that knows a lot more about this than I do. But that's where I see it going. I will never talk about art because that's something I know nothing about. But as far as music and fans and collectibles, I think we're going to see this space grow dramatically.
Yeah, I really agree. I think that for me, since I got interested in the space back in 2017, and really started to learn what the space was about, in my mind, it wasn't so much about NFTs or Web3, but it was about this slow and gradual movement to digital, right? Which we've pretty much been in for the last 20 years, gradually as hardware has improved. But we're seeing kind of the pace of development of different technologies that are going to enhance our ability to experience things digitally, that are going to be coming out in the 2, 5, 10 year timeline. And then, I think what NFTs and Web3 are is that they are an infrastructure to power that digital economy. I think that, when we talk about the effects on art, the effects on music, the effects on gaming, all of those things are things that can be experienced digitally, and have a large digital presence that just grows, with the advancements of hardware. And so when we're thinking about how is digital and physical going to merge in the next several years, I think we're thinking about, how do we create experiences for people, for consumers, whether that's through augmented reality and it's, retail experiences where companies are using AR to enhance their products, whether it's virtual reality and you have, people like Trevor who are just such talented creatives who can partner with studios like ours to create experiences that just push the bounds of what art, gaming, or metaverse, or whatever it is even is, what these preconceived notions are. I think we're going to have creatives from all around the world completely disrupt those notions and blow our minds with the things that they're going to be able to create in VR, which is why I'm excited about VR. But then I think we talk about, just an expansion of the digital economy, right? Which is growing. Gaming is growing at a ridiculous rate. Consumer applications on phones and computers are growing at a ridiculous rate. Digital is, whether we like it or not, taking over in every aspect of our physical world. And that's just going to be amplified, for better or for worse. It's going to be amplified by advancements in AR and VR technology. And so I think that, as we move into that digital world, I think the question becomes, well, we've got all these digital things. Where does it make sense to own those digital things, to truly have rights, digital property rights over those things? And that's where I think having NFTs and Web3 come in, right? It's that ownership layer. It's that interoperability layer. It's the decentralized, what I like to say is tangibility layer. It takes digital things and makes them more tangible legally, as the property rights that you have that you didn't have before. You have it more tangible from the aspect of being able to take it from one place to another. And you have it being more tangible from the sense that you're not just getting a right to use the IP, you're getting something separate from the IP that the IP is then somehow attached to, which I'm sure, John knows better than anyone, is how you can have these big licensing deals and everything that we're going to see a lot more of. Is I can't do that if we don't have some sort of infrastructure, a legal infrastructure and a technological infrastructure to treat these things in a way that are similar to, how we think of physical items, whether it's a t-shirt or a jacket or whatever it might be. When we're talking about IP plus item, you need that infrastructure legally and technologically in the digital sense. And that's what NFTs at least have the promise of creating over the next 3 to 5 years. And I think we're going to start to see, like John said, less talk about NFTs as a thing and more building around NFTs as a technology to enable digital experiences and the ownership of digital things.
Awesome. Trevor, John, either of you guys have anything else to add to that before we move on to some individual questions?
No.
I agree with everything that Nick says. I've found out the hard way that Nick is always right. But along those lines, actually, really, one of the great things about this space that I've learned over the last 6 years is it has given me the opportunity to partner with amazingly intelligent people. I've got my creative ideas and I have an imagination and I can think, how can I present this artwork, this visual piece of information in new ways to engage, the audience or a bigger audience, an audience is interested in the digital and of course ownership and all that. But it's only because of all the amazing people in this space that I've been able to grow my ideas and expand my mind in such ways that I don't see any bounds. That the work that I create, it's exciting because like every day I'm just constantly thinking like, what can I do? What can I, how can I do this? And I have a friend or somebody that I can talk to and say like, I've got this idea, is this possible? And then they can give me information. So yeah, I just want to add to to that, Nick is an amazing person to be friends with and a business partner with, because he has information that is extremely important and relevant to what I do, and we can work together on things that I can never have possibly imagined a few years ago. So, yeah, just throw that in there. And enough of padding Nick's ego. That's it. That's the last for 2024.
I was going to say, I've got Danny over here shaking her head saying, Trevor, don't make Nick's head any bigger. It's going to explode. But,
Sorry, Danny.
but I appreciate it. And honestly, that all those words are reciprocated. This has been a fun journey together. So excited to keep doing it.
Awesome. Let's move the discussion ahead here. So moving on to individual questions. First one's actually going to be to you, Trevor. So since you're coming from the traditional space, what opportunities do you think exist for traditional artists in expanding their work using Web3 technology or digital arts as a medium of expression?
Always put me on the spot. I'm first all the time. I think Danny put you up to this, didn't she?
Yeah, it was her. We're going to blame her. Nothing wasn't me.
Okay, can you ask the question again?
Of course, yeah. So what opportunities exist for traditional physical artists to expand their work using Web3 technology or digital art as a medium of expression?
Again, it's like I'm not a digital artist. I'm a traditional painter with a huge imagination, and I'm able to work with amazing people who can help me realize my creative ideas, my vision. There are things that are very interesting about this space that we're working on, such as the physical and the digital together. And one topic that's come up for many years now is the fact that I've got a physical artwork, and if I sell the NFT counterpart of it, let's say it's just an image of my painting, for example, or an animation that represents another way to tell the story about the traditional artwork. What is stopping somebody from selling that digital piece, or selling the physical piece and keep the digital? And that's happened, numerous times over the years with me, where I will sell the NFT, I'll send the painting to that person. They will then sell the NFT for a profit and keep the painting. So something that's important that, on my mind all the time is how can we bring the NFT and the digital together, the physical together. So I'm looking at conversations with different companies, and one that I've actually been having a lot of conversations with is Tribal. And they have an interesting strategy to connect the physical and the digital in such a way that they can't be separated. I think these are things that traditional artists need to think about when they come into the space or are already working the space. How can, because it can be a hot topic. And if there's a way that we can connect the physical with the digital and keep it, throughout time for that collector, that's something that the traditional artist needs to think about. What else? I'll throw this off to somebody else, and I'll keep on thinking, because you put me on the spot.
So I know that this was an individual question for Trevor, but I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna use Trevor as an example, because I know Trevor doesn't want to talk about himself as much as maybe he should on this one. I think that there are just so many opportunities, and I think Trevor is an excellent case of and then this is what personally excites me about doing what we do in the space, which is working with traditional artists on one side to take these ideas and grow them and turn them into experiences. But Trevor, all those years back, was creating fine art that was in the form of scannable QR codes. And I think that was such an early example of doing some amazing looking art that actually had a digital counterpart and had AR. Trevor was one of the first artists using AR in his art, at least that I was aware of. In the early days, so that's a whole other medium of, he's a painter, but you have these ability to work with companies that were just startups at the time, like Artivive and some of these other companies that that infrastructure was just being piloted. And Trevor was having gallery exhibitions where you could go and see these things, and you'd see one thing, but then you would scan it and it would show you an entire different video that gave you so much more insight into the art. And then when NFT was a thing, became a thing back in 2019, 2020, Trevor was pioneering that through, and it may not have all been him, but I don't think it needs to be, right? I think you can partner with others. The Bitcoin bowl painting. I'm careful not to say Picasso's bowl. Don't want to get in trouble. But the Bitcoin bowl painting was, I think, an early example of how a fine artist can use the digital medium and do more through a piece that just wouldn't have been, achievable for a traditional artist with a canvas and some paint. He was able to hit a way broader audience all around the world in an instant. When Trevor and Jose partnered together, you were talking about a traditional painter, in Scotland, and an 87-year-old comic artist in the U.S. seamlessly working together on a piece that then broke every record for an NFT sale and created one of the kind of lasting memories in the early history of crypto art. So, I mean, each of those points are points where if Web3, digital, these new technologies didn't exist, those pieces would have they would still be beautiful pieces, but they would have a entirely different form of expression coming through them. And some of the things that we're working on together now are going to push that to the next level. And I think what we're going to be able to do is continue to have that, forward-looking creative mind that Trevor has, meeting kind of the latest, edge cases of new technology and finding new ways to apply that. I don't think that is a thing that every traditional artist is thinking about. And I think, it's a tremendous opportunity for traditional artists to kind of make a stamp in a different way and evolve their art. Sorry, back to you, Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, it's been such a journey for me because, like you said, I was painting QR codes, scannable QR codes back in 2012. I was thinking about I discovered QR codes 2011. It wasn't too long that smartphones had been out. And you could actually. So I started to see these QR codes on different things, and it's like, what the heck is this? And I started to use them as ways to promote an upcoming 2011 exhibition, but I was already at that point, before the exhibition even opened, I was thinking, like, can I paint a QR code that is scannable? And then I worked with a friend of mine who's a coder and a web designer, and we built an online gallery where anybody in the world could upload their artwork. Any artist could upload their artwork, add their information, contact information, social media profiles, etc. And people who came to my exhibition could scan the QR code and access all these artworks. There was something like 200, 300 artists from around the world, and could then potentially contact them and buy their artwork. And it all started through my painting was like a window into a digital dimension. And at that time, I thought, like, oh my God, this is ridiculously cool. Nobody's doing anything like this. I'm going to be rich and famous. And it was exactly the opposite, because the traditional art world was not interested in these paintings at all. The next year, I was already focusing on augmented reality. And the more I focused on technology, the more I began to distance myself from the traditional art world, because they were not interested. Commercial galleries weren't interested in selling QR code paintings or artwork where they had to tell their clients to download an app and scan the painting. It just didn't make sense for them. So again, from a traditional artist point of view or standpoint, if you're coming into the space now, you always have to be looking at all the options, the medium that you have, and this new technological innovations, and everything's moving so fast. But that means that there's just so much more opportunity to be different, to be unique, to be innovating, and don't let anybody else stop you from doing what you want to do. At the end of the day, we are visual artists. We are storytellers. We are creating, work, images, animations, whatever it is that is telling a story, sending providing a message. And with new technology, we're just able to tell a more comprehensive, more exciting, innovative story around our work. And, I was thinking, I've thought about this a lot over the last 10 years, like what if, especially in the last few years, if I just came into this space now, would I still be as kind of open to new ideas, because the technology moves so fast. Um, and I guess, I probably would absolutely, but it just means, at the time, 10 years ago, nobody else was painting QR codes and creating websites that became an online gallery, for example, or working with augmented reality. So I was fortunate in the sense that it was a long time ago and traditional artists just were not interested in technology for the most part. Now that's obviously changed a lot the last couple of few years, but also the technology, so much is changing. But again, the only way I was able to do that 10, 11, 12 years ago is that I worked with people who knew more than me. And that's what's great about the space, again, that there's so many people that's very different about this space. And I've said this many times over the years, is that in the traditional art world, it tends to be much more insular. It tends to be much more about you as an artist, and you're all fighting each other in a sense to get attention. Nobody's really jumping out and helping everybody around. And in this space, all you have to say is like you put it online. It's like put it on Twitter. Say I've got this really cool idea. Does anybody know anything about this? And you'll have people coming to you and saying like I can help you with that. I want to help you with that. And that's what I absolutely love about the space is that most people are very supportive and just want to do really cool things. And that's how this space blew up over the last few years, because it really was by 2019, 20, that the collaborations of all the artists in the NFT space really pushed the entire NFT space forward. I mean, and then you had all the PFPs and Bored Ape yacht clubs and that kind of thing. But it started for the most part with artists just exploring and innovating with partnerships and ideas that could help each other out. So, long story short, yeah, form as many friendships and partnerships as you possibly can.
And adding to that, though, you said the most important thing, or just ask online. Like, I agree with you. Some of the smartest people I know are in this space, and like, don't blow somebody off because they're young or they don't have experience, or like, I've worked with people who are ridiculously smarter than me just by them hitting me up on Twitter or LinkedIn or something. And yeah, I agree. I think the collaboration in this space is second to none.
Totally agree. And John, while I got you up here, I'm going to ask you your individual question.
Damn it.
So, sorry, you gotta participate. Uh, so the question is, what kinds of new experiences can digital collectibles create for collectors that weren't possible in the world of traditional physical collecting?
Oh man, mine's easy. Sorry, Trevor. So years ago, when I think it was the first NFT company I worked at, I created this acronym called You Care, and it stands today. So U for utility. Like there has to be, you can have a lot of things that are just for collecting, but you really want something that has utility, whether it's in a game or whether it's in a loyalty program. You want something with utility. C, I'm a big believer in charity. I think people should always give back. So I think with digital collectibles, we do these great drops and we can give a portion of that to charity regardless. We did a drop with a band that was from Atlanta, and we gave money to the Atlanta Food Bank. Like I've been very fortunate. We did something for Maui back then during the fires. So I think that's something. So you have U, C, A was access. That was a big thing when people were going to NFT NYC or God, whatever it was, the conference. You had your NFT and you could get into special parties, but I think that can be expanded so much more. Maybe you get to go backstage to see a band. Maybe you get limited merch. I mean, that's all things that are happening right now. Yeah. Or for the roadmap, everybody wants to know what you're doing. I've had so many NFT companies come to me and say, we've put an NFT or digital collectible out with this company, and once we sold it, nothing happened. And I think that's something we're all striving to do, is to keep the loyalty or the excitement or the energy going within these drops. It shouldn't be a drop and done. Like you should always have something going further on down the roadmap, to the point in case of this conversation, like we're partnering with Apollo to be part of the game, or at least have our image in the game. Like, that is something that's amazing. And I think we need to see more of that. And that leads to the last thing, which is engagement. Uh, I am tired of the 2019 where, everybody was selling NFTs and that was it. You sold NFTs. Like, I love some of the NFT drops out there that really engage with their community, and they engage with people who aren't influencers, who aren't anybody, and they just engage and they make them feel important and they make them feel like they're part of something. Because at the end of the day, that's what this whole thing should be about. And I think we touched on that before, but collaboration, engagement, all of this is really important in the space. And digital collectibles allow you to do that, because nobody wants to carry around a Topps trading card in their pocket and watch it just deteriorate. So digital collectibles offer us this avenue.
Trevor, you got something to say?
Yeah, I think that's all great. And just adding to that, utility, that terrible word that's been discussed and debated from the art perspective over, let's say, since 2021, really. And for me as an artist, I never had a problem with the concept of utility. I know that a lot of artists go like, oh, my art is my utility. And that's true. At the end of the day, if your art is great, your message is great, what you're doing is unique and innovative, that is, in a sense, your utility. That's your brand. But I like the idea of utility. Some advice is be very careful what you offer as an artist, as your utility, because if you don't watch out, you end up putting on a freaking castle party every year, and it takes up all your time with my Bitcoin Angel utility. But I think what I agree with you, John, is that having that ability as an artist to create a community around your work, to offer something that is fundamentally different from every other artist, and to in a sense reward the people who support you and who allow you to continue to make work. And it's a huge amount of work to do something like that. I'm not, you don't have to put on a castle party, but even just offering things, as an artist, you're always thinking about, like, what can I do for my next project? What can I do for my next artwork? And then at the same time, I go, oh my God, but I got to take care of this. I got to sort of that. And this person says, oh my God, they bought this NFT of mine, and it's not as valuable as it was. And that's super stressful as an artist. You don't have to want to deal with that. But I do believe that, at least thinking about the opportunities this space gives you as an artist to connect and build a community around your work and what you're doing. And the other thing is that the charity perspective, I 100% agree. I think, we've been raising money for Maggie's, which is a cancer support charity here in Scotland, the last couple of years through the Castle Party. We raised about 140,000 US the last two Castle Parties for this charity. It's a small charity, and I mean, it's life changing for them. And I think it's really important, especially in this space, because it gets a bad rap. Constantly there's a lot of scammers and rug pulls and crap, and it's important to lead by example. And if you can continue, on whatever level you can, to provide a good example, to offer back, not just to yourself and to this community, but to the world in general, the IRL world, it will inevitably benefit us all in the long term. So, don't be selfish, give back whenever you can, I think, and not just in that you're virtue signaling to others in this space, but to show that the rest of the world that what we are doing is important and relevant and good for society.
Trevor, you could be my favorite person of the year right now. I think that that's amazing. No, and I'm not joking. Like, I love, because you are an influencer, or an influential person in this space. So to hear you say that, I think that's amazing. I think that that's great. I also do want to say, I've done these stupid things in real life as well. When I worked with a band that was a nobody band, we're like, oh, let's give away free concert tickets for life. That band ended up becoming a platinum selling band on all these freaking tours, and I had to keep up with that shit, and it was miserable. So yeah, I mean, I think we need to learn. Web3 needs to learn from the mistakes we've made in Web2.
Yeah, I totally agree, and kind of touching on the points that you guys both just discussed, both for art and digital collectibles. I think as a broader medium, when we talk about things like utility, right? And again, I kind of agree with Trevor. Back when that kind of became the buzzword, I was a little off put because artists at their core are artists and they're creatives and they're creating art that can be appreciated. And I think the same goes for collectibles. If you have a really strong connection to an IP, right, you may be very excited to collect a digital sticker that functions as a digital sticker or a digital sculpture or whatever it may be. But I think that, the utility question there doesn't necessarily have to be about some greater rewards program or castle party, although I love the castle party. It can be about different things, like from a medium standpoint, what are we doing to allow people to display that beautiful art in it digitally, and not just show people their phone, right? Not just show people a screen in their house, but how do we start to think about, okay, you created the art. Now let's put on an exhibition that is completely digital and blows people's minds. Or let's look at, what Rafiq Anadol's been doing with some of his art and his studio's art on, the things like the Vegas Sphere, or, the Gaudi house in Barcelona, and just thinking about different ways to showcase as a community the potential for a digital form of expression with movement and sound, and all these different things that can't be experienced physically. Or you look at what Trevor does with AR and you say, okay, well, this is utility. Not only do I have a painting, but I have a painting that can then come to life and move, and be a form of an experience that just doesn't exist personally, or doesn't exist. And I know Quid has very similar
Well,
tech with. Yeah, go ahead, John.
no, I was just going to say, so this is where I'm going to be controversial. I think art is art and PFP projects is where utility is. I don't think if you're buying art, like when I go to gallery and buy something, I'm not expecting anything other than I enjoy that and I connect with that. Like I think that's the problem, is like everybody's like, whatever PFP project offers X, Y, and Z, why doesn't this art project? Well, you should be buying it for two different reasons. Like, yes, the artist can create more to that, but they shouldn't have to. Like, that's where and I know that's a me thing, but I think art is art.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Trevor, I'll just real quick. I think that, it's not, at that point, it's about how the art is enjoyed, I think, and whether the artist has like a specific um, thing in mind, right? I don't know that artists necessarily envision that their digital art is going to be enjoyed on a cell phone rather than on, a nice big screen on the wall, or some sort of 3D thing that you can experience with AR goggles. I just feel like as an industry, we can do so much more to enhance the quote unquote utility of digital art, in just, and kind of going back to your point, how is that digital art enjoyed? What are the different ways that we can connect with that art that we love? And I know some artists have put it upon themselves, like Trevor or Rafiq, to do that. But I think as an industry, platforms like Quid, for example, that have these really awesome AR capabilities that aren't on a lot of 3D, digital collectible platforms, that allows artists like us to go and create some really cool stuff that we couldn't otherwise. And so I think, it's awesome to see utility kind of take a different meaning, even if it's pure art. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, it was a really, really strange and surreal experience for me, especially after the drop, the Bitcoin Angel, and the all the huge hype of 2021, and then all of a sudden there's 4,158 Bitcoin Angels, and there's 2,500 collectors of this edition, and then I've got a Discord channel, and all these people are coming at me, and not not tons, but enough, that asking me, basically feeling that they had the right to tell me how to run my art career. It's like, Trevor, you need to do this. You need to keep your floor up. You need to do this, and this is how you do it. It's like, and I just want to say, like, fuck off. Look, I've been an artist for 20 plus years. Don't tell me what I need to do as an artist. So it was a difficult thing for me to get my head around, and I had to develop a very thick skin because there was a lot of people who would pressure me to do certain things that would benefit them. So yeah, I do agree that as an artist, you have to focus number one on your work and your message and what you're trying to do as an artist. But I do like the idea of utility if it works, if it makes sense, if it's going to benefit you as an artist and what you're trying to communicate, what you're trying to build in the long term, and to potentially reward the people who have helped you build you up. So it's a fine line, and it's complicated, and you learn as you go. I've made a ton of mistakes over the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm sure I'll make even more over the next 4 or 5 years. But yeah, it's a difficult one. So for all the artists who are listening, don't get yourself involved. But I have into utility if you just feel like if you need to kind of stand out, you really need to think things through. And I have seen a lot of very very cool drops over the last couple of years that of artists who are rewarding their collectors in some ways, but at the end of the day, it's the art is the work that you're doing is the most important thing. You can do what you need to do to try to stand out and in a lot of noise, but if the work isn't great, you can have as much utility as you want, and it doesn't really matter. You're going to light a fuse, and it's going to blow up very quickly, and then you'll have nothing. So, if you build the foundation on quality work with a quality message, that's the most important thing, and then you kind of develop from there.
Yeah, I think,
I
oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, no, I was going to say something that has nothing to do with any of this, but I have to run to a meeting, unfortunately. But what I would say is bring Pop up here because, they're involved too. But Trevor, honestly, it was a pleasure to meet you. It was an absolute joy. And Nick, I appreciate you having me. And all of Apollo, and I wish I could have talked more about how great you all are as a partner. So you have to do that for me. Tell everybody
I've
what you
I've
do
done
for
I've
Quid.
done that enough already. So,
Well,
but great to meet you as
thanks.
well, and we'll connect.
Yes.
Thank,
Yes.
thanks, John. Thanks for joining. I'm sure we'll be back on together pretty soon. So good
Yes.
talking to you, and take care. Thank you.
Bye bye.
So yeah, I mean, just to kind of close this out anecdotally, and I know we've got a bunch of people from the Satoshiverse community here as well, and I think for me personally, when I was getting involved in the project, and we had this concept of building out the Satoshiverse lore, and our art collections with Jose, and really just starting to try to bootstrap our way to a community and a project and eventually a game. Utility was something that we knew that we wanted to be at the core of what we were building, but it was not necessarily what drove our creative process. It wasn't necessarily what drove our end goals. It was we wanted to create a universe, right? We had these huge ambitions to continue to grow this over time, but at its core we kind of looked at the market, and this was, I think, we started creating the Legionnaires collection about a month or two after Bored Apes released, and so it was kind of peak when NFTs were starting, and we were looking at these options of, okay, we know we have the capabilities artistically to produce a collection like that, but what do we want this collection to be? What do we want? Where does this go in 2 years? Where does this go in 5 years? And I think this is very separate, than kind of the artist point of view, which is why I want to present it, because it's kind of on the other side of that, as how we were thinking about this as a company and as a project that we wanted to grow. We very much looked at that initial collection as our opportunity to bring in a community that would help guide us into what that utility would be, not only through their opinions and their support over the last 2 years, which we've been fortunate to have, but through the financial resources that allowed us to then go and put together a 30-person team to build this game and do all the stuff that we've done, for the last 2 years. So that we knew was going to be kind of part of our goal in developing this IP and this project. But what allowed us to kind of, that artistic side of us still, showed through, I think, and instead of kind of, and not to knock any PFP collections, but we knew we wanted to do something very different than the PFP collections. And unfortunately, and maybe fortunately for us, that meant that we spent 4 months instead of 2 weeks starting to put together the collection, did everything in 3D. We were one of the first, I don't think there was another one that was creating everything in Unreal Engine. We did all these custom environments because we wanted to show kind of our vision of what we believed PFPs could be. And when we got into this, we were saying, we were a Metaverse studio. And, over the last 3 years, it started to become clearer and clearer what that has meant and what our goals are there. On one hand, working with incredible artists like Trevor to expand upon his offerings and his art, but then on the other hand, to create experiences through our own IP, through Satoshiverse or through, Legions or through other IPs that we might create that really push the bounds of what can you experience digitally. So when we were thinking of what PFPs could be, we were thinking, well, it may not be a 2D cartoon. As much as I loved comics and cartoons, we said, you know what, we want these things right off the bat to be usable in everything that we're building. And so we did, put 4 or 5 months into creating that initial collection. And now we're kind of reaping the benefits as, one of the games that is going to have these